occasion of the book signing for Rick Hall.
Yeah, the man from Muscle Shoals.
The man from Muscle Shoals. This wonderful book. Sherm published this.
Yes.
And he is a publisher. You are Heritage Builders Publishing Company, and out of California. So you can see why this man is so special to me. Rick Hall, this was such a wonderful time. When did you actually meet Rick Hall?
Well, I met Rick at the at the Hall of Fame, the Alabama Hall of Fame. I was the speaker the night that Peanut Montgomery, who was a major writer for 30 years for George Jones.
Oh my!
So Peanut was getting his star that night, and I met many country music and music stars that evening, and Rick Hall was one of them. And then I ended up publishing Rick's book.
Oh my gosh, one of the legends.
Yeah, well,
this man.
He's amazing, and
this man.
He's the #1 music producer in the world of all time. So there's not enough you can say about Rick Hall.
It's true. This man was world renowned, wasn't he?
And still is.
And still is.
Yes.
People appreciate what he did.
Absolutely.
And anybody from Alabama, well, anybody would enjoy reading this. Just a wonderful, wonderful thing for history. I am so glad you were able to do this.
Well, it was one of the highlights of my whole career, was to be able to, part of my legacy is going to be that book.
I kind of thought it was special to you because on
Absolutely.
your bio.
So when I first came to Muscle Shoals was for the book The Legend of George Jones, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But
okay.
yeah, so no, I was unfamiliar with that whole genre, that whole world. I love the Southern rock music. I love the Muscle Shoals sound, and the people that were produced at Fame Studios. I mean, I love those people. They were my favorite singers, but I had no clue they were coming out of Muscle Shoals. Absolutely none. And I remember the night I stayed at a hotel right next to. I was not in here to meet with Rick Hall. I was in here for the George Jones book. And that was my introduction to Muscle Shoals.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I was staying not far from Fame Studios, and I looked at Fame Studios. I had no clue what it was, and not until someone told me you were just talking to Rick Hall. And one of the giveaways were the photographers standing around us taking pictures while he was taking photos while he and I were talking, and I'm thinking, this man is somebody.
These photographers know him.
Yeah, that was a great night. He's a favorite son in Alabama. He's a friend of mine. I love him. So a lot of things have come out of these books. For one, we just recently released Candy Staten's book, Young Hearts Run Free, which was her big mega hit. And Candy was started and brought up by Rick Hall. And he discovered her and then put her right into soul music. And, you know, she's the queen of soul music, of Southern music. She's amazing. And the book's amazing. It's called Young Hearts Run Free. You can get it anywhere.
Okay.
You can buy it anywhere. Mm-hmm.
And
it's a great
that's available
book.
now?
Oh, yeah. It's a great book. It's a great book. And there's a lot of stories about Rick Hall that she tells in that book.
Oh,
yeah.
Her association with people.
Oh, yeah. He was the #1 person that put her into her career.
Oh,
yeah.
All these associations. And you said you really weren't a fan of country music.
No.
At all. But still, you've gotten to know these people, so many of them.
Yeah, I grew up in the mountains of Kentucky, a place called the Knobs, and we'll probably talk about my new book too while we're on this.
Okay.
The Chronicles of the Knobs. But yeah, and so I was a bluegrass country. I'm still a bluegrass fan. I love bluegrass music.
Okay.
So I was up around Renfro Valley and all those places, and then eventually ended up leaving, going to Brazil to school, and then ended up in California. So. But I just, I'm on this trip because my mother just had her 90th birthday.
And she still lives in Kentucky?
She lives in Lexington, Kentucky. That's where most of my family is.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah.
So you're a Southern boy, really?
I'm a Southern boy. You'll never get it out of me.
Sure. I wanted to remind everyone about Rick Hall's book, The Man from Muscle Shoals, and as a bonus with the DVD. And that was a big hit. And
yeah, it's a documentary on Muscle Shoals music.
And this entire documentary is in the book.
Right, it is.
And so it's just wonderful. And want to tell people about that. And while we're at it, why don't we show just a little bit of our first meeting, that interview up in Muscle Shoals,
all right,
or at the Alabama Music Hall of Fame, when Rick Hall was signing his book.
Yes.
Published the book.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
the publisher.
Sure.
Sherm Smith, Heritage Builders Publisher.
We really do
Oh.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Oh my goodness.
If you
Thank
can read
you.
it, I wrote it.
Oh, okay.
You might not
She
be able
can
to
read
read
it,
it,
and
yeah.
we've got that. Well, let's get you on camera.
All right.
Sherman Smith. I am with Sherm Smith and the book.
I did. The Man from Muscle Shoals.
It is a beautiful publication.
Thank you.
I want to tell you, and the paper, top quality. We are so excited about this book. I know. Well, you were too, obviously.
Well, of course. I mean, I'm eating and breathing. And so I'm here every month, and
Oh, where's home for you?
Monterey, California.
Oh my!
So I fly into Muscle Shoals and work with the Halls, and I've done another book here. I'm going to have some more. So we're just real excited about what's going on in this place. Yeah. So the Muscle Shoals, this book, the documentary ends in 1972. So it's Rick's eclectic career up until that area, and then from then on is the book, and it goes back into some of the early life, but then it will tell you the stories that you have questions about while you're watching the documentary. So then the book tells the rest of the story, and it's right up to Sherm Smith walking into Fame Studios.
Oh, wonderful!
So yeah, we're right up to date. So it's been exciting, and to work with Rick is awesome.
What a great project. We could not believe it. Now, I knew about the Muscle Shoals sound, but I didn't even know the name Rick Hall. We grew up out of state. Even though this is, born in Alabama.
Right.
But still, didn't know the name Rick Hall until I met Judy Hood. And once you meet Judy Hood...
She's incredible, isn't she?
She is. She's his #1 fan.
She is. There's no doubt about it.
Aside from her husband, David Hood, a swamper.
Yeah.
But after that, I just want to know more.
Of course, and the amazing thing is that I didn't know where Muscle Shoals I heard of Fame, but I thought Fame was in Los Angeles or New York. I had no idea it was over here in Muscle Shoals. But here's the amazing thing that I'm finding out as I come in and out of here for the last 3 years, and that is that the people in the cities here, the Quad Cities, really don't understand that while the black people were in the mess they were back in the 60s, and the governor keeping the black kids out of the schools, and Aretha Franklin was marching on the bridge, just like Arthur Alexander, and they were doing that, Percy Sledge, they were doing that while they were recording in the studio of a white man. And on top of that, the great part of this is that while that was all happening, Rick Hall was up here in this little corner of the world making superstars out of black people with white musicians.
Yes.
And so that to me that resonated, and I'm going, I grew up in the South in Kentucky, so I have to go do this book. I have to do this book. And so it's just been, our publicity teams are just salivating to get this, because outside of the area, northern Alabama and Nashville area, Rick Hall's no one knows that Rick Hall is behind all that. But it doesn't take 2 minutes anywhere talking about him.
When you know the music, you think,
goodness,
this man was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing, and how this book is taking off, and we're just happy as we can be.
Well, we're so glad you did it, Sherm, that this was a labor of love for you and a project that you just had to do. How long did it take?
Well, Rick took 10 years to write this book. When he first had the idea, the inclination, the drive, the resolve to do it. And he and Terry Pace, who's the co-writer with him, it took 10 years. And then after I received the manuscripts, then it was another almost 2 years
getting the book into the shape where we could publish the book. And so it's been a labor of love. This is his legacy. And oddly enough, I was telling he and Linda Hall the other night at dinner, it's also mine. This book is going to be part of my legacy, of all the books that I published and the great books that I have been part of. This is going to be part of my legacy, and I'm just ecstatic to meet you guys and know everybody down here. And I love Muscle Shoals. I really do.
Well, it's a special place.
If Kathy Smith would move here, we'd be gone.
Well, we're looking forward to you coming, and we spend more time together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you
You
bring
bet
your
you.
bride next time. Sherm, when people that are not as fortunate as we were today to be here for the book signing in the Music Hall of Fame, how may people get this book?
They can get the book in any bookstore after April 7th, Amazon.com or heritagebuilders.com. You can order the book there. And so it will be available everywhere. All right, and as a bonus, of course, the documentary, Muscle Shoals, award-winning documentary, #1 documentary 2013 of all documentaries, comes in the book. We put it in the book. So they get a bargain here to get this incredible story of Rick Hall's life and the music that shaped Muscle Shoals' sound, plus the documentary. So it's just going to be a great thing for everybody again.
It is, and I can't wait to read mine. Thank you so much, Sherm, for talking to us. It'll be out there.
On the internet. Yeah, when I wrote my first bestseller book, I've been interviewed by Joan. I've been interviewed by all of them. No, I'm going to tell Margaret the truth. You are one of the best interviewers that I've ever had the privilege of doing. You make somebody feel so comfortable, and you know what you're doing. You got your material there, and you know, so you know what you're talking about, and that makes it easy. I stutter. I'm really a stutterer. So
No, you aren't, but you know that is just amazing. Oh my God, Sherm. No, this is just, with us, I just want to record history. I wrote a book about my childhood hometown.
Did you?
Yeah, 1990. And actually, I was a flight attendant after my son married. This is our son, Mike.
yeah, I just gathered.
Yeah. And I
This
started.
Mike looks like the family. It wasn't too hard to put together.
I just don't want to let you go.
The father's son.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're just.
Every day of the year since 1962 has Fame's music being played somewhere in the world that day. And it's mainly When a Man Loves a Woman, an Aretha Franklin song, or Etta James, which is the big ones, At Last.
Yes. Oh, At Last.
At Last
Oh, my
is,
gosh.
that's like,
We just want to take a look at this book again. That famous documentary about the Muscle Shoals sound, that documentary is included in this book. It was a wonderful idea that Sherm Smith had. And this music is just a part of our world, isn't it? All these wonderful artists.
yes. And actually that idea didn't originate with me. That was Rick's. Yeah, that was Rick's idea to put the DVD in the book, and of course we had to go jump through some hoops to be able to do that, but that added to the value of the book because people got to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, I have people that have bought the book from Heritage Builders in the past. Now the sales of the book are controlled through Fame Studios.
Okay.
So that's how you get the book from Amazon.com, and you can still buy the book in the bookstores. But the DVD, Rick won a Grammy, and for the Lifetime Achievement. I think there's only 6 of those people alive. So
Producers.
yes, they got that was amazing. You know what's been accomplished, but every year and every day somewhere in the world, one of Rick's songs that he's produced is played on radio. and especially big songs like Etta James' At Last.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I hear that song myself, you know, almost every day if I'm on the if I'm playing the radio, and then with the kind of music that I listen to, and then of course Percy Sledge, who died
Oh, yes.
last year, the great song. Rick was part of that song, and that was When a Man Loves a Woman. Yeah. So there's nothing. There's nothing that I can say that's going to add to this man's pedigree. I mean, it's
his legacy.
Yeah, he's the favorite son in Alabama is one of them. So
a
there's
living legend. Is that
what fascinates me about Alabama, period, is the numbers of world-class musicians, singers, producers, songwriters that come out of this state. And even more so that come out of the Florence, Sheffield, Tuscumbia, Muscle Shoals, Quad Cities there in that little area. I mean, they come out of the woodwork. And, you know, I mean, I grew up where you had some fiddle players up in the hills of the Knobs, and you had some banjo players and whatever. But those guys were never on the level that these guys, I mean, a guy shows up out of the woods and becomes a world-class guitar player. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing place. So, you know, that, like I said, that's my second home, and Alabama would be where I would be if I wasn't in California. So,
it is an amazing place. One of the someone back here on the cover had said something about, you know, they say it's in the water up there. He said, I believe it. I believe it.
I believe that was Mac Davis that made that
some
quote.
of your other books, Sherm?
Well, one of my favorite books right now is because Heritage Builders publishes, we're one of the few publishers that actually, especially midterm, you know, smaller publishers that actually can make a market both in the Christian market and also sell on the trade side. So about 35% of my books, 40% are Christian books, and the rest of them are on the trade sale. So I publish both. One of my favorite books is out right now. It's called Honky Tonk Angels, and it's by Bernie Nelson. Bernie Nelson with Shenandoah. Bernie Nelson has written some marvelous songs. And something that people don't realize is who the songwriters are. You never hear about who the songwriters are. You used to have the old records, and you'd have the record, then you have the singer, and then right under that would be another name nobody knew. That's a songwriter. They wouldn't even know who that was. We don't do that anymore. So you don't hear about the songwriters. So Bernie Nelson wrote a book called Honky Tonk Angels, and when it's kind of a premise that there are thousands of people who can sing, who've got talent, can play, you know, musicians, maybe even songwriters, and lots of songwriters, but they never get the break. It never happens. And they could be world-class people and entertainers, but they never get the break because they're not at the right place at the right time. So here comes Bernie saying, well, this is because God sends down a honky-tonk angel. So one of my favorite stories that he tells in the book is going out to the boot barn there in Goodlettsville and buying a pair of boots. He and Randy Travis were hooked up together at that time, starving to death, and went out and made a deal with the salesman who was Garth Brooks. So and everything happened right then. And of course, Randy Travis became a superstar. Bernie became a super writer and has participated, even though he's a great musician in his own right. But I think another favorite story in the book is The Boy Named Sue by Johnny Cash. They were all over Johnny Cash's house playing and singing, and this song came out of nowhere. And June Carter says to Johnny, well, you're going to be singing at the prison at San Quentin in the next few days. Why don't you sing that song? And, no, nobody's going to listen to that song. So when he was over there, he pulls out the music. He's got it written down because he doesn't know the words. The musicians didn't just going to play along with him, and he told the prisoners, he says, I'm going to sing this song and see if y'all like it. And so by the time he's halfway through the song, they're on their feet, And that's where when he said, my name is Sue, how do you do? He put it in there during that concert. But there again, the Honky Tonk Angel had the right people at the right time doing the right. So it's really cute. And the cover, I mean, you can't miss the cover. It's a beautiful woman with big, long wings. And she's got on cowboy boots, and it's one of my favorite covers. But it's the premise of the book. You know, and we don't believe anything happens by accident anyway. So it's a premise. And then other Christian books that we publish, we have a really great book, The 7 Things That Christians Need to Know About Addictions, by Steve Horn out of Sanford, North Carolina. It's a great, great book. And then another book called Defining Moments, and it is it's dealing with coping with the loss of a child.
Oh my.
And I published that book because I'm part of that group. So it's an amazing book. People that are going through that struggle and that grief. And then we just signed a contract with the Hope Foundation to publish their books. And what they do is 2 clinical psychiatrists. They're known all over the world. And in fact, they have an internet television program too.
Okay.
And so those are the kinds of things. And we have 3 Bibles, 2 by Dr. Elmer Towns from Liberty University, co-founder of Liberty University.
Oh,
so we've published the Family Prayer Bible and the coloring book that goes with the Family Prayer Bible. You can pick up both of those.
Okay.
And then I Am God the Son is the first rendition of a Bible, not a translation, but a transliteration. We want to make that clear. It's in the first person, and the book is fascinating because it's Jesus narrating all of the Gospels and going through in the first person, and then right at the creation. And this is Marvel Comics type illustrations, and are just as good as those are. It's unbelievable. They're coming out of South Korea. So those are some of the books we do. And on the other side, the Honky Tonk Angel's in all the stores. It's both sides. Most of my books are. They're going to be in, we stay away from all the doctrinal issues and things like that. Make sure that we've got something wholesome for the Christian people. Then some great books that are also going right now. Of course, Candy Staton's Young Hearts Run Free is a story you won't believe. I mean, it is a story you won't believe. This is a person that not everybody knows and don't realize how big that Candy Staton was, and especially in Europe. When she was over there last summer, she will have 10,000 people at one of her concerts. I mean, she's still pulling the crowds, and it's just amazing.
Produced by Rick Hall.
Yeah, she was produced by Rick Hall. Rick Hall discovered her and started her, and so
Is she an Alabama girl?
She's an Alabama girl.
Just north of Birmingham.
Yeah, north of Birmingham, and she grew up there in a place called the Colony. And so there's a lot of stories, and of course she talks about Rick
Could
Hall.
that be near Coleman?
Coleman, that's the name of it. Yeah, it's
Hey.
Coleman,
A
Alabama.
Coleman girl.
She's a
that's
Coleman.
close.
Yeah, she's that. So she sang with the Jewel Trio out of Nashville, and when she was a little girl.
Oh my God.
And so I love this story. I mean, it's just, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours with Candy, and what a sweetheart of a lady that she is. And I would love as people, buy that book. It's available. And we have a book coming out by Stephen Schutz. You might not have heard of him.
No.
He has one of the largest Elvis Presley collections there is in the world.
Oh.
And the stories that he has connected to this, and that book's got a lot of pre-sales right now, and I really love that. Then I have my own books called Chronicles of the Knobs, and this is
Kentucky.
this is a Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn story about 2 boys growing up in a Baptist church up in the woods. And
Autobiography or fiction?
no, it's fiction.
Fiction.
But
okay.
they will.
But you draw from
They'll
your
have to
background.
figure out what's real and what's not. But
Okay.
that's and then so we do some financial books. I mean, that's been my background. So we've had Life Under Pressure, Moving Beyond Financial Meltdown is a book that people can.
Oh,
It's
yes.
one of my books that I authored.
Okay.
So these are the types, and then the major books that we have, we publish Stephen Cosgrove. Stephen Cosgrove is the #1 children's writer that's alive. And so he's sold over 100 million books.
Oh,
And he's exclusive with us for the last 4 years, and we've developed some really, really great stuff. And I'm just starting to publish his books in Spanish as well, so we can get them into Latin America and make them affordable for people to buy. And you know,
that's exciting.
yeah, that's another exciting thing that's going on with Heritage Builders Publishing right now. And so, you know, Stephen, I just want to talk about one series that people might gravitate to. I had never had grieved over the loss of a pet. And my dog, Callaway, named after the golf clubs. My dog, because he was black and white, the Shih Tzu. And 15 years with that dog, and he was like my, you know, one of my 4 sons. And he died. He died, and it was, I grieved and grieved. I just never had done that before. We didn't keep a dog long enough around long enough to grieve. But I called up Stephen, and I said, you know what? This is what I'm going through today, Stephen. And he goes, you know, I've been through that 6 times, Sherm. He said, I understand exactly what you're talking about. And I said, what do you think happens to these pets when they die? He said, well, mine are in heaven. You know, I don't know where yours are. So he created a series called ARK, A-R-K, Angels.
Oh,
ARK, Angels. Right. Now, this is new, and people, I mean, I'm telling you about it now. ARK, Angels. All right, and these little puppies, and there's a little pony named Daisy, and Rosebud's a little bear, and they die, and they go to heaven, they become angels. And so it is so cute and so good to read to, you know, your 3-year-old to your even 6-year-old kids. That's what these are built for.
And that will help.
But I like them, and I'm an old man. I love them.
And so children can read these. If they lose a pet, that will be so good.
Oh, it's absolutely is. I mean, I get
Yes.
letters from people that have lost,
Yes.
you know, their pets, and they read
And
these books.
helping their children
Yeah, they read
get
these
through it.
exactly, and they read these books to these kids, and you know, it helps the
Helps
grief,
them.
and it helps the adults.
Yes.
I mean, it helped me.
While they're reading to the children,
Yeah.
they're soothing their own souls.
Exactly, they're soothing their own self.